Welcome to the deep dive. Today we have a really interesting mission. We're taking a very specific, very structured set of sources.
A collection of project management scenarios.
Exactly. And we're using them not as a test, but more like a shortcut. The idea is to bypass the textbook and get right to those moments where, these crucial high-stakes decisions have to be made.
That's right, because when you really strip it all down, project management comes down to maybe, 10 or so key inflection points?
Things like, how do you handle conflict?
Right. Or when do you actually pull the plug on a project?
Yeah.
How do you react when some huge external threat just lands on your desk?
So our goal here is to really get at the why behind these best practices in governance, risk, team leadership.
Yeah.
We want you to walk away from this understanding the real strategic thinking behind choosing option A instead of B or C.
And just to give a bit of context, these scenarios they're drawn from the kind of rigor you'd need for the PMP exam. That's a 230-minute test.
A marathon.
It is. And what that tells us is that these answers, they aren't just arbitrary. They're based on a very precise, globally accepted set of best practices, whether you're building a bridge or, launching a marketing campaign.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I think we should start right at the beginning. The very first big decision any PM has to make, choosing the right way to run the project.
The methodology. Yeah, that choice basically dictates the entire rhythm and philosophy of how you're going to execute.
Exactly. So let's look at our first scenario here. You're developing a new mobile app. The market is, it's super volatile, and you fully expect customer requirements to change constantly, maybe even daily.
A classic startup environment.
Right. So what's the most suitable approach? Predictive, waterfall, or agile?
I mean, it has to be agile, right? There's really no other choice here.
And the principle there is?
The principle is that high volatility and constant change demand an adaptive methodology.
Yeah.
If you try to lock in a fixed scope with something like waterfall here, you're guaranteeing failure.
What does that failure look like? What's the downside?
Well, waterfall needs you to define everything 100% right up front, and then you try to prevent change.
Which is impossible in this scenario.
Exactly. That upfront definition is basically a fantasy. The second the market shifts, your whole plan is obsolete. And then the team gets bogged down in months of costly change control paperwork, just trying to catch up.
Whereas Agile
is built for this. Short sprints, constant feedback, iterative delivery. It lets you pivot cheaply, and you're actually checking in with the customer every couple of weeks to make sure you're still building the right thing.
That distinction is so key. Costly bureaucracy versus rapid validated learning. Okay, so let's move from the high-level strategy to the messy day-to-day of an Agile team. Specifically, what happens when all that fast-paced work creates friction?
It always does.
So, scenario one. Two team members start arguing. It's getting intense. It's about a technical approach, and it's happening right in the middle of the daily stand-up. The meeting is now running way over time. What does the project manager do?
The project manager has to protect the ceremony. Their immediate action is to ask the two team members to take it offline.
Take the issue offline, solve it after the meeting.
That's it.
Okay, but let me challenge that for a second. What if it's a really critical technical blocker? Isn't it slowing things down to not solve it right then and there? Why is the 15-minute time box more important than that?
That's a really important question. And the reason is the stand-up isn't for problem solving. It's for status updates and identifying roadblocks. That's its only purpose.
Okay.
So if two people hijack that meeting for a 20-minute deep dive, you've just wasted the time of 8 other people who were just standing there.
Right. Their focus is broken.
Exactly. The PM's role is to facilitate momentum for the whole team. By deferring the debate, you're not ignoring the problem. You're just reinforcing discipline. The issue gets flagged, and then the right people solve it immediately after without holding everyone else hostage.
So the PM is really the guardian of the process.
Guardian of the team's collective time.
That makes sense. And speaking of protecting the process, that leads us perfectly into the roles within Agile. So scenario 6. A key stakeholder, let's say a VP, completely bypasses the process. They go straight to a developer in the middle of a sprint and say, I need you to add this high priority feature right now.
Oh, this happens all the time.
So what does the developer do?
The developer has to direct that stakeholder to the product owner to talk about the backlog.
Now, this feels like where process meets politics. I mean, if a VP is telling you to do something, isn't it risky to say no? Won't you look unresponsive?
You might, but this is where governance really gets tested. That rule, it's like a firewall for the team's focus. The product owner is the single, sole authority for prioritizing the backlog.
The gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper. If a developer just accepts that request directly, the sprint commitment is immediately broken. Your velocity metrics are now useless. The whole plan is shot. The PM's job is to empower that developer to say, I hear you, this is important, but you have to go through the proper channel so we can evaluate it against everything else we've promised to deliver.
So it's about protecting the integrity of the promise the team made for that 2-week sprint. Okay, let's shift from protecting the team to protecting the project itself through risk management.
Yeah, moving from just doing tasks to strategically thinking about what could go wrong.
So let's look at scenario 3, proactive risk identification. A new environmental regulation just passed. It directly impacts the materials you're using in your manufacturing project. This is a big external change. What is the PM's very first step?
First step is to update the risk register and immediately start analyzing the impact.
Okay, why analysis first? And why the risk register specifically, not, say, the issue log?
Because a new regulation is a potential future problem. It's a threat. It's a risk, not an issue.
Yeah.
An issue is something that's already happened.
Got it.
So you can't just start ordering new materials or changing plans until you understand the scope of the problem. How much will this cost? How much will it delay us? The correct governance is to assess first, get the data, and then you can plan an intelligent response.
Jumping straight to a solution without understanding the problem.
It's a recipe for massive budget overruns. Analyze before you act.
I like that. Analyze before you act. So let's take the next logical step. Scenario 4, risk response. A risk that you actually identified and planned for. It just happened. Let's say it's a supply chain delay. The response plan is right there, documented in the risk register. What's the move?
You implement the agreed-upon risk response plan. Period.
No hesitation.
Zero. This is all about execution efficiency. The company already spent time and money planning for this exact situation. Maybe it was buying insurance or lining up a backup supplier, whatever it was. You execute that pre-approved plan immediately.
So you don't stop and try to find a new workaround?
No, a workaround is what you do for an unplanned risk, something that came out of left field. If you planned for it, you follow the plan. It's been vetted, it's been funded, it's been approved. You don't waste critical time in the middle of a crisis debating new ideas when a solution is already on the shelf.
And root cause analysis.
That comes later, in a retrospective, maybe. You figure out why it happens so you can prevent it next time. But in the moment, it's all about containment and recovery.
Efficiency through process, that's a huge lesson. Okay, let's switch gears to managing our stakeholders and their expectations.
Which is often the trickiest part of the job. Scope creep is real.
It is. So, scenario 8, validating scope. A really important stakeholder refuses to sign off on a final deliverable. They're saying it doesn't meet their expectations, but the team can prove that it meets every single requirement in the original spec sheet. What's the PM's first move?
The first move has to be to figure out why there's a disconnect. You review the acceptance criteria with them, and you sit down and meet with that stakeholder to really understand the gap.
So why not just immediately start a change request? I mean, the stakeholder is unhappy. They clearly want something different.
Because you don't actually know what they want yet. You can't start changing scope and budget until you know if it's a real change request or just a misunderstanding.
So it could be a communication problem?
It could be. Maybe the criteria were written poorly. Maybe they misinterpreted what a feature would do. Your job is to first clarify, prove you met the original agreement, and then if it turns out they genuinely want something new, then you kick off the formal change request process.
Clarify before you change. Another great rule. Okay, from stakeholders to team dynamics, especially with global teams. Scenario 7. You're leading a global team, and engagement is low. There are constant miscommunications, all because of time zones and cultural differences. How do you fix it?
The most effective thing you can do is to establish a clear set of ground rules for communication. And, this is the critical part, you define a set of core working hours.
What do ground rules look like in practice? It sounds a little generic, but it's clearly the best answer here. Much better than forcing everyone to work headquarters time.
Forcing everyone onto one time zone just leads to burnout.
And people quitting.
Right. Ground rules create predictability. They might say something like, urgent issues are a phone call. Everything else is email. Or, for decisions that need everyone's input, we will all be online for this 90-minute window on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It creates a system that everyone understands and can rely on, no matter where they are.
Predictability, that's the key. Okay, now for what might be the toughest decision of all, knowing when to quit.
Yeah, this is a hard one.
Scenario 10, Project termination. There's been a massive shift in corporate strategy. The original business case for your project, it's just no longer valid. The project no longer provides value. What should the project manager do?
If the business case is gone, the project has to go. The only correct recommendation is to terminate the project.
But what about all the work that's been done? The sunk costs? Can't you just, I don't know, reduce the scope or something? Keep the team busy?
Sunk costs are a trap. They're gone. They have no bearing on future value. Continuing a project that no longer aligns with company strategy is just, it's value destruction.
You're throwing good money after bad.
Exactly. Every dollar you spend on that project is a dollar you can't spend on a new project that does align with the new strategy. The PM has a responsibility to the organization to stop that waste, even if it's a difficult conversation to have.
Wow. The responsibility is to maximize future value, not justify past spending. That's powerful. Okay, let's wrap up with a quick look at the tools PMs use to figure out how they're doing and why things are going wrong.
Right, the diagnostics. Moving from gut feelings to actual data.
So, scenario 9, root cause analysis. Your team has a recurring defect on the production line. You need to find the real fundamental cause, not just the symptom. What tool do you use? A fishbone diagram, a Pareto chart, or a control chart?
For root cause, you want the fishbone diagram. It's also called an Ishikawa, or a cause and effect diagram.
And what makes that the right tool for this job?
Because the fishbone is specifically designed for brainstorming categories of potential causes. It gives you a framework, like the 5 M's: manpower, methods, machines, materials, and measurements. It forces the team to look at the problem from all these different angles.
As opposed to a Pareto chart, which would just...
A Pareto chart would just tell you which defect is happening most often. It ranks the problems by frequency, it tells you what, but the fishbone helps you find the why.
It helps you dig deeper. Okay, last one. The ultimate diagnostic for project status. Earned Value Management, or EVM. Your project report shows an SBI, a Schedule Performance Index of 0.8, and a CPI Cost Performance Index of 1.2. How is your project doing?
So the simple rule here is, anything under 1.0 is bad, anything over 1.0 is good.
Okay.
So an SPI of 0.8. That's under 1. That means you're behind schedule. You've only accomplished about 80 cents worth of work for every dollar of work you plan to have finished by now.
We're slow, but the CPI is 1.2.
And that's over 1, which is great. It means for every dollar you've actually spent, you've gotten $1.20 worth of value. So you're being really efficient with your money.
So the overall status is...
You're behind schedule, but you're under budget.
What's so interesting there is how those two numbers tell such a specific story. It's not just we're in trouble, it's a very particular kind of trouble.
Right, it's nuanced. If you were behind schedule and over budget, the answer might be to cut scope. But being slow yet efficient, that suggests a different problem.
Like a resource problem.
Exactly. It could be you don't have enough people, or the people you have are being pulled onto other things. The data tells you not to cut the budget. Your team is spending money wisely. The problem is you're not spending it fast enough. You might actually need to add resources.
What a great example of using data to make precise decisions. So here's something for you to think about. If the business case is literally the lifeblood of a project, what steps beyond just a simple review should a project manager put in place right at the very beginning of the project to make sure that business case stays relevant and valid all the way through to the end? It all starts with proving the value.